Good night to folks in Turkey, good morning to others in other countries, and good afternoon to folks in India, China, and Asia Pacific. My name is Vivek Chaudhary, and I lead the emerging markets / Asia Pac practice for our multi-channel marketing offering in the emerging markets in Asia Pac, as I said. So before we get started, as you know, the topic of conversation is really tablet detailing and how can we maximize the impact in front of customers and improve the effectiveness therein. There's a favorite book of mine which I always like to refer when I start conversations is about starting with why, which is by Simon Sinek. For anyone who's of interest can always look on YouTube and find out the concept of golden circle. But basically starting with why is on the premise of why are we talking about this topic of tablet detailing in the first place. But before getting in tablet detailing, the conversation that needs to happen is why detailing. We did run a poll recently across emerging markets in Asia Pacific to figure out what's the, from perspective of customer engagement, what are the tactics that are critical to clients. We all know it in the business, but we want to reaffirm, and detailing remains to be one of the key focuses. And when we did a further deep dive into it as to where does tablet fit in, clearly tablet with 57% response from our customers across these markets. Tablet seems to be one of the things which pharma executives believe and marketers believe is an effective way of engaging and cutting through the clutter to connect with customers. So before we go into why tablet detailing, again, let's get into talking about detailing. So what are the challenges of detailing? For people who've been in this business for 10 years, have seen probably different methods of detailing, from obviously the traditional method of detail aid. We spent enough time in creating those amazing detail aids to get the right imagery in place, work with agencies, keep everyone awake till late at night, get really focused in terms of getting the right key messages, everything done. That part of the business I think all of us have faced, and there's been no issues with getting the right things together. What's always been challenging and will remain challenging is how do you take that bit and execute it and connect with customers. And that's where the real challenge remains, because at the end of the day, after all the effort, sometimes those detail aids really never make it to the customer or never really stay with the customer or make an impact. From an execution perspective, let's understand from a detailing point of view what are the key challenges that we face in this market as we look at it today. Looking at overall, there are really 4 fundamental pillars on which we have challenges. The first is around information needs. So information needs from customers' point of view is never linear, but detailing overall is built from the perspective of linear information flow, and that's a huge challenge to begin with. Secondly, it's not personalized because of being very linear. Thereafter, if you look at the number 2 issue, which is around engaging interaction, why do we need engaging? Why is the challenge with engaging interaction? Because you've got these detail aids which have got great imagery, great information, but really doesn't have the power from a format perspective to connect with customers. Lastly, with the information overload that customers face, which means multiple reps from different companies, online information resources, peers increasingly available for information, it's further challenge for getting through to the customer. And lastly, I'll get into one more point before I move in, that what's very specific from an emerging market perspective is really a difficulty of access with physicians. I mean, if you look at the physician-patient ratio, whether you look at Turkey or India for that matter, we have a huge gap. In some cases, doctors look per day up to about 120 patients per day. Now in that, how do you really get detailing done? It's like a rapid fire session typically. I don't know if anyone's worked in the ground knows it, that reps basically go and literally have less than 2 minutes to make an impact with the conversation. So therefore detailing is challenging, and we have to do something to make innovation leap in terms of customer engagement. So when we discussed earlier, we saw the reason why tablet detailing was given the challenges in detailing overall, we realized the 57% mark that we saw, that our clients and pharma marketers across the geographies are looking at tablet detailing as potentially the silver bullet for solving this challenge of detailing. Truth is, it's got all the potential, The problem is execution always remains a problem, and we'll get to that later. But from a tablet detailing perspective, why is it considered that it could solve the problem? Really, it comes down to these points that I mentioned. Enables a great way of making interactive, rich media connect with the customer, visualization of complex science in more engaging manner rather than just no matter how good your 2D imagery on a detail aid is, it cannot match what can be possibly accomplished through a tablet environment. That's number one. Number two, a doctor or your physician doesn't want to listen to everything. He's got a very specific question. You need to jump into that particular thing, and with the way structures of tablet details are done, it enables you. Now, it's a question of matter. It's a matter of question whether you leverage it or not. But really, it enables you to do that. Getting to the point of what you want to convey, the key message. And finally, apart from all the other things, it's about the real-time analytics, which lets you gather information on a timely basis. And what's the power of that is that you can get this information and derive insights from it to maximize marketing impact through optimizing your processes. But then all of these things need to align. Again, this slide really is talking about what tablet detailing, why is tablet detailing disruptive? It's not that this is what's going to happen in the market and we play it out, because we see the challenges which we'll talk about later. So while, as I said, that there is a clear mandate that tablet detailing could be one of those silver bullets to improve the engagement with customers while our reps are facing them, one thing we also realize there's a huge challenge in terms of getting tablet detailing going. But so we asked this question, why tablet detailing is important, just to verify our perspective and our point of view. And the resounding answer was 66% of our of whom we polled, pharma marketers, said that improving customer-facing effectiveness was the reason why they are considering tablet detailing or doing tablet detailing. And hence, the name of our webinar today is improving customer-facing interactions. So when we look at the overall emerging markets in Asia Pacific space and considering talking to our clients across, what we also saw, which kind of verifies with this poll, is that over 50% of our respondents are either in the bracket of already in early stages of implementing tablet detailing or improving tablet detailing. What improving means is that they already have tablet detailing in place. Now the question is, how do we put it into fifth gear? With that challenge that we faced, well, we realized that clients were struggling universally in terms of technology adoption from a tablet detailing perspective, but more importantly, content integration. So we decided internally that we needed to partner with a robust platform provider which had global reach and potentially multiple brands experience. And the partner that we aligned along was Skura, which we believe has a great platform, and our amazing content production combines us together for a great potential, and that's what DetailPro is. So what is DetailPro? I think that's kind of one thing which Kiran had mentioned earlier, that we are really talking about launching this DetailPro, which is our collective sort of going to market strategy along with Skura in terms of making an impact for and creating solutions for clients. Is there anything you want to add, Kiran, at this point?
Yeah, I think the combination of a solid content approach, and we'll talk about this in today's session, is critical to the technology that complements it. So I think both of those are sort of two sides of the same coin. Essentially, that's what DetailPro is. It's a solid content strategy and operations coupled effortlessly with fantastic and intuitive technology. At this juncture, I'm going to hand this over to Eric, and Eric's going to walk through a couple of slides. Eric, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Before Eric jumps in, I just want to add one more quick thing, which is about the value proposition that Kiran you just now mentioned. I just want to make it clear from our customers' perspective. because I think people who are listening today, and any one of them has had any tablet detailing experience, will definitely connect with these pain points, because we face them in the market. And the pain points really fall into two buckets, which is that, okay, we have this great platform, how do we maximize the utilization of it? How does it really connect with our CRM? Or we have this platform, how do we really create impactful content and integrate with it? So our real value proposition from DetailPro perspective is solving for that comprehensive solution for our customers to help them improve their customer-facing interaction. So which means, how do pharma marketers not have to worry about it once they get the solution? They are locked both in terms of your technology and content.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the synergy between content and technology, unless that works seamlessly between each other,
exactly,
don't see the benefits.
Yeah. Right. So finally, before Eric gets on, I just wanted to have a quick wrap up in terms of the key benefits, in terms of why, when we say this is a comprehensive solution, what does this really mean for our clients? What does it really bring forward for them in a very point-wise method? And the first thing is, this solution, when implemented together with our content offering and Scura's platform, would be an intuitive way of utilization for the rest, because ultimately it's for them. Correct. So if it's very complicated, we've seen systems, right? We've done evaluation across, and systems are difficult to use. In this case, it's really easy. It's pretty intuitive. Obviously, you have to learn, do the basic trainings and things like that. The second part is customization of the content, which is any kind of device can be used. One of the challenges, someone said really nicely on my LinkedIn profile, and I'll thank him separately on a line note, that we are not talking about iPad detailing only. We're really talking about tablet detailing. And what that really means is we have to be agnostic to the devices being used, and this platform will do that perfectly well. It's fast, simple to use, and updates are pretty important in our business. Our business is driven by content and updates on the fly. And it has to be easy. It cannot be something that you wait for the reps to upload. All they need to hit is a button and the content is refreshed. That's the kind of stuff. And finally, insights and quick access. So with that, I think, Eric, it would be great. I would hand over this to you to take this forward from a further deep dive into DetailPro and functions, features, and et cetera, et cetera.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Vivek, and thank everybody else on the line for giving us this opportunity. I look forward to speaking with you here. So just so from another picture in terms of what DetailPro is, that's what this slide is supposed to represent. So two key components. Component number one is the cloud server. It sits on, we use the Amazon cloud, which is one of the largest providers of server technology. So very reliable, scalable, robust. On the cloud side is where you do all your key items, such as managing your content, so getting your content onto that cloud, and then having a mechanism to get it to the reps that you want to assign it to. Obviously, loading your reps, assigning them into the groups and territories that's meaningful for your organization. And then finally, on the cloud, the other key component is the connection interface. And this basically allows you to sort of weave your corporate data, so other corporate repositories such as CRM or ERP, with your electronic detail. On the client side, and so someone mentioned that it's tablet and not necessarily just iPad, and that's very important to remember. So our system has a client component, the DetailPro system, which works across all the mainstream tablets. So whether you're using a Windows PC-based OS, whether you're using the Apple iOS, or whether you're using Android, the system will work seamlessly the same way with the same UI across those devices. Some of the key things I think to note when you're talking about the client piece, and which we'll be demonstrating in a couple of minutes here. One is basically one-touch access to all your key presentations. We mentioned earlier in the call that quite often the rep only has a couple of minutes, and so it's very important that all of the information is at their fingertips and readily available to pursue. There's a feature to do some pre-call and post-call planning, which I'll also look at. And finally, in terms of the top three, there's data tracking for all your customer interactions. In terms of just sort of exploring the high-level features of the combined platform. There's an opportunity to co-browse. So what that means there, if you're unable to see the physician in a face-to-face manner, then you can do that over the web using the same platform. I talked about it working across devices, so being device agnostic. The platform is also CRM agnostic or back-end agnostic. We'll talk a little bit about that later on in the session, but the thing to remember is that you can readily basically leverage all the information that you may already have in your organization, and you don't have to sort of invent the wheel. It's very easy to deploy, sort of load and deploy content to users, which is important. The content that we work with is all open standards, so it's not only you can use it within the DetailPro, but you can also use it outside of DetailPro. So very easy to leverage any investment you make in content. The platform also allows you to do what we call is sharing information with customers sort of after the call. So if you want to send the customer additional information after you've had a face-to-face call, you can do that all within the platform in a very simple way. So that's where that's all I'll say on the just sort of the high-level benefits. There's lots of other detail which we're happy to provide if you'd like further information. So this picture here is just to drill down on sort of the content part and how important the content piece of this entire equation is.
For the content piece, I think there was a really good point that you made, and I just wanted to highlight that in your demo, that some of the features that you're talking about, apart from the content itself, I think may be much more easily demonstrated when you get into the experience of it. But I'd like to quickly add on something before I let you do that.
Sure.
And that's kind of around the whole content experience itself of making it interactive. Because I know that some of the participants today might be thinking, what does interactive really mean? Because we've seen a lot of these interactions, and you've seen enough of them, Eric, yourself, wherein like some charts are jumping up or some bars are rising, and that's considered interactive. And to us, that's kind of just table stakes. To us, what's really interactive is how do you engage with the customer so that he starts touching and wants to take that tablet from the rep's hand and really starts feeding information into it or plays around with it, using all the features of an iPad from feature perspective. So as we had worked together, I just wanted to make sure that people understand that we have some proprietary tools which really make that happen, whether it's from turning a patient case into a really simulating experience for them, or it's a mobile app which can be helpful as a tool for patient education, or it's a high science visualization done through 3D. All of these things really integrate well with the system, and I think with our backing of medical expertise and project management and rich media experience brought to science, I think, and in collaboration with Skura's platform, we can really change the game here for customer engagement in person. So with that, sorry, Eric, I just wanted to jump in to kind of dive a little bit about the aspects of what really engagement and interactivity means. Here's again back to you, maybe for the further look in technology, the closer look at technology of technology.
That's great. Thanks, Vivek. And I think the key takeaway is that if you're doing the content piece right, which Indegene has lots of deep experience in doing, then you change your conversations from push conversations, which has been the traditional mode with the physician, to pull conversation. And so the pull, it means that the physician is actually driving the conversation, and the rep is actually acting as an information broker and ideally liberating or pinpointing or finding the information that physician really needs. And if you're doing that right, then ultimately you should be building a great relationship and really helping that physician understand what you're describing to them. So from there, I believe I have control of the webinar here. So what we're going to do, we're on to the demo portion, and I'm going to sort of take this from the perspective of a rep, and they're logging into their system. and sort of just walk through a typical some typical scenarios that the rep would face. I'm hoping that as we walk through this, that some of the benefits that Vivek had mentioned earlier, such as easy to use, quick access, and sort of intuitive, will sort of come through as we do this. So, however you log into our system, the DetailPro system, you'll generally be faced with a login screen. The rep will. Now that login in this particular case is the same user credentials as a Salesforce.com CRM system. So you don't actually have to remember multiple logins. You can just remember one, and we can authenticate against that, an existing system that you may have in your organization. I'm going to log in here. So once I log in, I'm presented with a thumbnail view, or what we call as the library screen. So on the library screen is a representation of all the different presentations that's been assigned to this particular user. Okay? Now, quite often there may be, I'm showing 34 different presentations. I can navigate sort of to a second screen here to access other pieces. Now, typically a rep in the field would have a lot fewer presentations, but in case the number of presentations is getting quite large, then we have this mechanism called playlists. And so with playlists, you can readily simplify and sort of organize all of the different presentations against categories of your choice. So in this particular example, if you can see, I've created a playlist called Webinar, and if I wanted to sort of access the exact same presentation information that we were just looking at, it's here within the DetailPro platform as well. Before I go into an actual presentation, what the typical scenario would be is that the rep would actually enter into a pre-call planning area of their software. Okay. So in the pre-call planning area, you have a few options. The key thing here is you can start planning your day. So if you hadn't set up some of the meetings in the CRM system, then you can do that actually here within DetailPro. So let's click on our target list. Our target list is all the contacts that have been assigned to that rep, or all the accounts that they're supposed to be calling on. So let's find Vivek here. Please here, and here he is. So let's pretend I'm actually going to do detail to Vivek. So I'll choose his name. What I can do when he's on this on deck list is I can actually click. Sorry about that. I can click on his history information, and it gives me a sense of, what calls I've made, in the past, few months. And so in this case, just from a demonstration perspective,
gives you a better handle of like what's being discussed and when the touch points have happened, so rep is more prepared to make a more impactful discussion.
You got it. And in this case, I've had a lot of conversations with Vivek, so he's been.
Yeah, that would be a rep's dream, right? To have that kind of conversation with the physician as much as you and I have. So that would be perfect.
There we go. Right. So once you've lined up, I'll just line up one. You can move actually the that particular contact to a piece on your calendar, and when you're ready to make the call, you can just press play. I can pick a presentation, and now I'm in the call. So hopefully, on a tablet or on a touch device, a lot of these elements are very easy to work through. So here's the presentation that should look fairly familiar to everybody. As you can see, I've just pulled up a default navigation bar on the bottom of the screen. This is an optional bar which can be used to sort of navigate through material. So some of the other navigation features, you can go, you can swipe across as much as you want. You can go just in a linear fashion through each slide. You can pull up an index feature, and you can quickly jump to, a very specific. So the idea, of course, is to make it a non-linear sort of presentation. You can change presentations. So most presentations are organized be a brand, right? So if we're in life sciences and I wanted to jump to a different presentation, I can readily do that, and without sort of wasting the valuable time while you're in front of the physician. This is another presentation now that is a sample presentation of a company that provides products and services to old age homes. They've managed to organize all of their content through this entry page. So they have this option of a virtual tour that the rep can take, with the physician, and ideally they can find an area that is relevant to the physician. They can click on the particular resource or balloon, and they can start getting into like a video, as well as information around this particular service. Okay, so there really is no limit in terms of the content that you can create and use here, and it's just about what's going to be meaningful, impactful for the interaction. Okay, so once the rep is finished, with their e-detailing, they'll typically go back and press the record button, or they can just press the home button if they're not ready to finalize the call. Okay. From there, you can go back to the actual pre-call planning, and you can find your call, which is, because of the time zone I'm in, is up here early in the morning, and you can click on your call. And what you can see here now is this is sort of a post-call wrap-up, and it shows, sort of a data footprint of the information that was shown to Vivek, the order of which you showed the different pages, right, and how long you spent on each page. Okay. If you wanted to actually change some of this up, you could, but quite often it's just sort of a check. The other thing that you can do is you can provide some feedback on how you thought some of this information was, perceived by the physician. So by default, things are neutral. But if you wanted to emphasize that a particular piece of information went well or did not go well, you can do that here as well. And this obviously can be very valuable for marketing, because when this information gets back to marketing, they can sort of collect it and aggregate it across different sales reps and marketing bundles, and really get an insight as to sort of how that information is being used and perceived. Okay.
So, Eric, this is really going to be extremely helpful in planning your content as well, but when you want to personalize or customize to the level of physician, like if he is interested in what kind of information, is it a safety guy, or is he looking at, patient engagement information, clinical data on efficacy, so you start segmenting your doctors much better, right? I mean, that's kind of, from an application perspective on field, would be a real business case.
Yeah, no, very good point, Vivek. So once the rep is happy with the information that they see here, you have an option to, obviously record some objectives and notes. Just for the sake of time, I'll just close off on this piece. The rep can just press record. Now, when they press record, there doesn't have to be a CRM system in place for this system to work, but typically there is. And now all that info can go back to the CRM system without the rep having to do that CRM admin. Okay. So I'll press record. Now this call is read-only, and we can move on to another call. Okay. Just to quickly back up to the library screen, I wanted to highlight a couple of other features very quickly, and then we can move back to the presentation portion of this webinar. I went to the pre-call planning area. There's also an area that we call Designer. So in Designer, you get a similar screen to what you saw, the main library screen showing presentations, but this time you're seeing actually individual web pages that that make up all the presentations that have been mapped to you. So from here, what you can do is you can actually design these individual follow-up pieces for a particular physician if there was a request, not for maybe the entire presentation, but maybe a subset of that presentation, right? And you can easily do that by dragging items into your workspace. You can go to your workspace. You can save, follow up, and now you have a an individual presentation available, that's been customized and personalized for a particular position. Okay. There's lots of other pieces I can talk about here, but just in the sake of time, I'm going to move back onto the home screen and just highlight the fact that in any individual presentation, you can right-click. There's a few things you can do, but one of the key things is sharing. So we talked about a key feature, the ability to move information along to a customer, and you do that here in the form of sharing. So it's as simple as right-clicking, pressing share, picking a template. So there's a number of templates that you can access, typing in the email name, and sharing. So once you've done that, you've now actually created an opportunity for the physician to click on and basically self-detail any of the information that you have sent them, and you'll also see the data tracking of anyone that does the self-detailing.
Right. So Eric, basically you can send him on the fly his personalized choice of content that he's seen, and not have to really do any other follow-up. He's got what you need in real time.
You got it. And just to finish off, you might wonder why there's you see some lighter and some darker and some reds and some yellows. So what this is you have to remember, this is the client portion of the system. So the presentations, if it's a red dot and it's sort of light color, it just means that a presentation has been assigned to you, so download it when you get a chance. The yellow dot means that there's been an update to a presentation, and if the presentation is just clear, it just simply means that it's available and ready to go. So all simple and quick and easy to learn in terms of sort of navigation and detailing positions in a face-to-face manner. So if just based on time, I'll leave the sort of demo there, and I'd be happy to explore the solution and the demo in more detail with individuals if they require.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you so much, Eric, for the detailed demonstration of SFX. I think it was very, very interesting. What we're going to do at this juncture is we're going to now explore some of the challenges being faced in the marketplace, and then we're going to go on to Q&A. I know we have only a few minutes.
Yeah, we've got about, we had scoped out about 10 minutes for Q&A, and what we'd like to be honest to it is that we'd like to stay to that. However, one of the key things that we want to just highlight, because we spoke about, we talk about closing the loop on things. So now, while this is an amazing way to connect with your customer from a tablet detailing perspective, but we asked our clients across the board again as to what were the challenges they faced really when they thought of tablet detailing, and it's not surprising because this is what we hear all the time. The biggest bucket of 39% was about content integration, which means again, guys, if you've done this before, that content integration is not a challenge when you just turn a JPEG or a simple, straightforward transition or adaptation of your existing detail aids into tablet detailing. What we are really talking about is that interactivity and richness that comes and the plan that's required behind it. That's the #1 challenge, and I think we've worked hard with our clients to solve that and continue to do so. With the DetailPro, it will be much easier. And lastly, rep adoption and training go hand in hand. It's like head and tails of the same thing, and it's really something which is part of change management. So without any further ado, I think we can share some of these points later, but I'll just go straight to the key takeaways that we have from this presentation. But before that, maybe you can do a quick Q&A before we jump into that.
I think at this, thank you everyone. I think at this juncture in the presentation, you can send questions. We've already started to receive questions from attendees. If you would like to post a question, you can do that right now. The right-hand side of your screen, if you've logged in from your laptops or your computers or your PCs, you should see a tab called Questions. If you're logging in on an iPad or a tablet device, you'll see a question mark icon. Please feel free to post questions. and we'll try and get through as many of them as possible. So I'm going to pause for a couple of minutes to allow you all to submit your questions, and then we'll start the Q&A session.
I think there are a couple of questions already in queue, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let's get started. There's an interesting question here. I think this attendee is trying to understand, Vivek and Eric, what kind of content capabilities should a client look for when evaluating a vendor? A fairly practical question, I would say. Right? So, what are your thoughts, Vivek? What do you? I mean, without being specifically Indegene,
right.
But I think as an industry, what does the industry really need?
Really, so this is not a very surprising question, right? Because it would be a surprising question if we didn't talk about the environment of tablet detailing.
Yeah.
However, considering this environment, this is very logical. One of the key things is that what we have are providers of high science content aplenty. We went to a client a couple of days ago, without naming the client. We were talking to the head of medical there, and he specifically said, don't worry, we've got a lot of good content. I've got 16 in-house medical writers who are working with my team and creating information which is good with global support isn't a big deal. They said, okay, great, which is a big deal, right? We see in industry a lot of people suffer with that challenge. But what he said, now how do I take this content, which I've aggregated over and over, and really make my customers interested in it? I'm creating these booklets which have got really great clinical insight, but my customer doesn't have time to really engage with this. And if he doesn't see it, how does he engage? It's like us, right? I mean, we are marketers, we read all the time, we'll refer to blogs and things like that, but the problem is we don't get interested, we don't read it. So what we really need is a vendor which not only understands high science and is is comfortable in dealing with it, but also understands the creative communication aspect of it, which means how do you visualize high science into a creative way and then easily integrate into a platform. So for tablet detailing, 3 pieces of evolution, 3 pieces of evaluating vendors. Ability with high science content dealing, secondly visualization ability, and finally technology comfort.
So I think what I'm hearing, Vivek, is that it's not just taking content that you already have and then putting it onto an iPad or putting it onto a tablet.
Yeah, for that you don't need to really evaluate vendors much, right?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that it's really how do you enhance and ensure that the content that you create creates the necessary business impact, right?
Right, and business impact is basically customers seeing your content, being interested in it, and wanting more.
Absolutely.
It's like our, someone said about like every time we read articles on our magazines or newspaper versus when you look through an iPad, you do is what they call is scanning.
Yeah.
Right? When we scan through the stuff, we say, okay, fine, this is an article I like, I'm going to read this.
Correct.
And that's very important in your factoring into your consideration of evaluation.
Thank you so much, Vivek. We have another complimentary question that just came in. This attendee is looking for an example of content integration. I know some of it you've already sort of answered in the previous question, but can you provide us with some examples on how one can integrate their content effectively?
Right. I think it's again an easy thing because I mean not easy to do, but I think easy to explain at least on the superficial level over here, and that really comes back to one thing that. Now you got all these great information. 2 ways of doing this. You can just take it and build it into your tablet detailing system. Otherwise, you sit back and say that what's the storyboard that I really need to create, right? From a storyboard perspective, now you take this piece, and because you're talking about tablet detailing is basically breaking all this big information chunks into smaller bits. So I think that's kind of really, I don't know what if that kind of addresses, it's really at a simplest level, really breaking down complex into simple and then making it interesting and layering it again with high science. You see what I mean? It's kind of breaking things down and then again complicating it up.
Yeah, but using
So it's really building content for tablet, not repurposing existing content. If that is what I'm hearing, integration.
Yeah, I think that's. I hope that answers your question. If that doesn't, please do send a follow-up question. We'll try to get to it. We have a very interesting question here that comes in from China. I think, Eric, you'd probably be the better person to answer this question. So the question is, how is Skura different from other CLM vendors like Viva and Citizen? Are there 2 or 3 compelling reasons why someone would want to work with, use Skura SFX? Eric, any thoughts, insights on that?
Sure. I think that the 3 big things that come to mind, and it relates actually to the 2 content questions that were just asked. Before you move content into a system, you obviously have to get that part right, which I think that Vivek just spoke to. But at some point, you have to get the content into the system, and you also have to be able to readily update that content, right, with changes, new product lines, whatever it is. And so one of the big differences between, and we get this cited back from agencies, because Skura, is not an agency by themselves, and so we can be independent sort of in that regard, is that it takes, 2 to 3% extra time to get content into our system, versus, 20 to 25% extra content creation time or content resource time to get it into other systems. So the ability to actually get content in, open standard content in, and be able to update it is a huge advantage for DetailPro here. A second one, which we talked about, is the connection architecture, right? A lot of the mainstream competitors, there's one sort of CRM system, which is different than sales enablement or closed-loop marketing, which we're talking about here, e-detailing, but they have one system that they connect to, right? Well, we can readily connect to multiple systems. So as you're evolving, getting more, intelligent around your e-detailing, you can leverage, corporate data or corporate data repositories that are already in existence, without having to recreate the wheel. So I think that's a second one. And then the third one is, we talked about it during the webinar, but I think it's important to mention, and we can readily demonstrate this to you in follow-up meetings, is the fact that we are truly, device agnostic. So as the interface that I went through very, very quickly in this webinar today works the exact same way across all mainstream devices. So, if you, in fact, an individual rep can use, multiple devices in their own right, and everything still works, seamlessly on the back end. So hopefully that covers off the main question in terms of this DetailPro, value proposition versus some of the competitors.
Thank you so much, Eric. I think that was great. Thank you very much. Another question, more regional, specific to India here. So the attendee asks, any surveys carried out with doctors on how they respond to tablet detailing, specifically in India, Vivek? What are your thoughts?
So as you know that we've done these surveys in different shapes and form, but not specifically only thinking in terms of tablet detailing per se. So I just want to be honest to that. What we have done really, and we do this often as part of our engagement and understanding our customers or our client customers, which is physicians, is we talk a lot to KOLs. And we talk to KOLs across the board in different therapy areas. What we realized, as we look at more complicated therapy areas or challenging therapy areas like oncology or cardiology for that matter, cardiology not so much, I think more oncology, derma, what we started hearing from them is that, yes, it's an amazing thing, it's done right, but the problem is, it's again the matter of interaction. It's a matter of content. So just sending I'm quoting one of the KOLs without naming him, don't send a rep in with a tablet and think he's going to make a difference. He's got to get the right information. He has to convince me and show me stuff, which is going to be of use reason to my practice. So we do not have specific percentages by general GPs. What we have is for specialists. So we're willing to share that if someone's interested. And we've done with oncology, cardiology, and we've done with derma and a couple of others. I can't remember off the top of my head.
So I think your main message there, Vivek, is that really it's the synergy between the content and the tablet together, and the overall.
I think the message
is positive, right?
A poor rep, if you send a rep with poor content and tablet, it's is going to do so much. It's going to cut you through the clutter. It's like invitation to the dance.
Yeah.
You get your invitation to the dance, but ultimately it's about performing in the dance that gets you the award.
Yeah.
And the performance comes from content. So I guess these are the combinations that you need to think about, especially when you're looking at guys beyond, GPs.
Yeah, I think well said. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we're almost out of time. I wish we had a little more time to get through the rest of the questions. However, if your question is still unanswered, please don't worry. We will have Eric or Vivek or both of them respond to your questions by tomorrow. At this juncture, I want to thank our attendees for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us today to learn more about Indegene DetailPro, as well as learn about some of our experiences in emerging markets and how tablet detailing is really a game changer here if done correctly. At this juncture, I want to also especially thank Eric and Skura Corporation. Eric actually dialed, I'm not sure most people on call will know, but Eric's actually dialing in from Toronto today. So it's 3 a.m. in the morning. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us. We know it's very, very early in the morning for you.
Eric can do an early morning jog at 4:30 in cold.
Yeah, it's no problem at all. It's been my pleasure, and I hope that some of this information has been relevant to some of the problems that are being faced and the people that have attended within their organizations. And it's no problem at all. I really enjoyed it.
So thank you so much, Eric. So attendees, in case you have any other questions, you want to learn a little bit more, either about some of the data that we've got, or about the platform, or about just general catch up, there's some contact details on the slide. You can see it. Please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you. Thank you once again for taking time out and joining us today. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.